The number of people suffering problems after continues to grow as researchers learn more about how to diagnose and treat the lingering illnesses. A new documentary, The Unseen Crisis, examines the stories of some who got their shots, doctors vilified when they tried to help, and allegations that the government has long been quietly treating a select few of the injured.
One doctor's appointment, I just had what seemed like an inflamed wrist, and the next one I was numb up to my back. That's the first time the doctor was like, you have a problem way bigger than your wrist. Like, you need to get your brain checked out. The next day, I went paralyzed on my right leg.
So 7 days after the vaccine, I gotten so bad that they placed me on the ventilator for the first time.
And tonight we are hearing from a Broken Arrow family who blames on their 18-year-old daughter's death. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sarah Wadley.
And I'm Shay Rozzi. They tell me they face challenges trying to get their daughter Trista's medical records and get her story out there.
Everything else was telling her to get it, and she decided, you know, really, what's the chances? What's the chances? Yeah. And she knows other people who've gotten it, and they seem fine, so why not?
Just get the
roll the up and get the vaccine.
And tell your friend on Facebook to stick to jewelry.
She listened to the BS. She listened to the safe and effective, and it killed her.
There's a federal database tracking potential side effects that's getting a lot of attention online.
Theirs is the Adverse Event Reporting System. After you get your shot, it's how you can let the CDC and FDA know what side effects you're dealing with.
Now you got this guy in room 4 who got his second dose of vaccine on Tuesday, has been short of breath, okay? Now his BNP is elevated, D-dimer elevated, ALT, all his liver enzymes are elevated, his PT, PTINR is elevated.
He's got myocarditis.
Yes!
Oh, this is
let's see.
Probably myocarditis due to the vaccine. Right. But now they're not going to blame the vaccine.
When she went to go get the shot, she got some blood work done as well, which she told us about the blood work.
She told us she was going for an annual, just a checkup. She was an adult now. She wanted her own doctor, and she wanted to go just to get a checkup. And we said, okay, if that's what you want to do, do it. So she went.
And nothing, it all came back perfectly normal. So at the same time she got the shot, she got a clean bill of health.
Throughout the end of the summer, she started having some issues with feeling lightheaded when she stood up. She was getting nauseous after she ate.
She was sleeping all the time.
A lot.
I mean, anytime she wasn't at work, she was sleeping.
And
that was not like her.
Yeah, and she was starting to lose weight, but she had no problems before that. No pre-existing conditions, no comorbidities. She liked to jog around the neighborhood. She would go to the gym with her sister. She was
take the dogs for walks.
Yeah.
I mean, she was pretty active.
Had we known then what we know now.
The fastest vaccine developed to date has been for mumps, and that took 4 years. Now the coronavirus vaccine will take over as a medical textbook legend.
The race for a vaccine has been the biological equivalent of the moonshot.
This is extraordinary. This is the fastest vaccine in history.
Fastest vaccine development in U.S. history.
It will be one of the fastest scientific achievements in modern history.
It's been a mad scramble to immunize the world against a virus that has paralyzed us all, from research to distribution. It's a process that usually takes 5 to 10 years or even longer. But with all eyes and hopes pinned on a silver bullet to hopefully end the pandemic, scientists have already pushed out several vaccines.
The Food and Drug Administration has just approved the first COVID-19 vaccine for use in the U.S.
The FDA giving emergency use authorization of the Moderna vaccine late Friday.
The FDA gives the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine the green light for emergency use.
Vaccines are our best chance of putting this pandemic behind us and returning to normal.
And so I want to urge everyone to take the vaccine when it is your turn. It is really pretty painless, and it will save your life.
The data speaks for itself. We are saving lives. Get a shot.
I got one. Michelle got one. People you know got one. And now you can get one too.
You want to hang out with us? Get your vaccine.
Go get vaccinated. Now. Now.
And we have to get in those communities, and we have to knock on those doors, and we have to convince people and put them in a car and drive them and get that vaccine in their arm.
Let's just get as many people vaccinated as we possibly can, as quickly as we can.
We're interested in thinking about ways to incentivize people to get the vaccine.
COVID passport.
The vaccine passport.
Community certificates. International travel health certificate.
But yes, there's going to be a vaccinated economy, and you get to participate in that if you are vaccinated.
Don't get the vaccine, you can't go to the supermarket. Don't have a vaccine, can't go to the ball game. Don't have a vaccine, can't go to work. You don't have a vaccine, can't come here. No shirt, no shoes, no service.
A green check mark means you're clear to travel.
We've got to shake people at this point and say, come on now. We tried voluntary. We could not have been more kind and compassionate as a country. Free testing everywhere you turn. Incentives. Friendly, warm embrace. Free fries when you get... I got... You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this? Let me check with Bill Neathart. Is it too early in the day to eat a burger? No. This can be breakfast? Okay. I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. I really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of I'm getting a very good feeling about right this moment.
This is not a video I want to make, and it's kind of hard to make because as I'm watching myself, I see what I'm going to say, which is I have been diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which is paralysis on one side of the face. For me, it's this side here, the left, obviously. So I got it about 2 weeks after getting my... I had a rough go with the... and I guess still am. But I have to say that I would do it again because it's what we have to do. It's what we have to do to see people. So, I don't know why I'm making this video, but here's my weird smile.
There are more allergic reactions to the COVID vaccines than first expected.
Headaches, nausea, hallucinations, and yes, even death.
Blood clots in and around his brain.
Flash pulmonary edema caused by anaphylaxis.
Abnormal clotting or pulmonary emboli.
I've developed Bell's palsy.
Every bone and muscle in my body was shaking for over 90 minutes. Actually started hallucinating.
I began to swell and my skin turned red.
This red rash quickly spreading, covering Terrell's entire body.
Doctors at Allegheny General Hospital ran every test you can imagine, but still don't know why a perfectly healthy 33-year-old mother is basically paralyzed from the chest down just hours after getting the Pfizer vaccine.
The Martins say they were not against the vaccine at the time, but with it being new and having some immunity from experiencing COVID, they felt their family didn't need it.
He just woke up on that morning, November 9th, and said, I'm having trouble breathing. She was at a friend's house. She said, I'm having trouble breathing, and my whole entire body hurts. And she just went to go try and lay down. She thought she could sleep it off.
She was tough.
Thought she was just getting sick or something. And then her sister went to check on her and couldn't get her to wake up. And that's when they they called me and I rushed over there, and by the time I got there, she was no longer breathing, and we had to start CPR, and it was a complete shock.
Nothing prior to that said
Nothing.
she was going to be dead. Nothing.
That had to be so hard performing CPR.
It is something I wish on no one. I mean, you you cannot imagine. And especially to performing CPR and it not helping, you know, I mean, it's something that will never leave me.
These are among the rare side effects that Floridians are reporting after taking the.
I did not know any of this could happen until I got the vaccine. It happened to me, and I'm hearing other people's stories and doing research, like not a simple Google search, but research on sites that are not getting banned and flagged when you say something about the vaccine. And there's so many stories that are out there and they just keep being pushed under the rug.
She said I didn't want to do it, but I felt I had no choice. They said better get the jab if you want to stay employed. So I rolled out my sleeve. I believed them when they said safe and effective. Now I'm always in some pain. She says I guess your politicians lie, but the sheep on there towing past the party line. So well, I guess that they joined the experiment. If something might just happen, Pfizer won't be taking care of it. Damn, she said I don't know what to do. I just rolled out my sleeve cause I was following the rules. Now they treat me like I'm crazy cause they don't think it's possible, even though I'm the one who was rushed to the hospital. They say I'm just a conspiracy theorist. I'm an anti-vaxxer, so no one should be hearing this. Even though I got injured from the vax, and no one wants to hear me when I talk about the facts.
And I think it's one of those things where people feel so distant from it and they believe the safe and effective messaging, like you're saying.
I don't think a lot of people are realizing what's happening until somebody they know, this happens to. Somebody they know.
U.S. life insurance companies have reported an overwhelming and unexplainable increase in all-cause deaths among 18 to 49-year-olds. Along with that, there's also been an increase in certain medical diagnoses, such as miscarriages and Bell's palsy.
Some of the strongest evidence that the medication that shall not be mentioned has caused crippling injuries and huge numbers of deaths in the population of people who took it has come from funeral home directors who have reported huge spikes in deaths in their business that correlate with the rollout of said medication and when it was forced onto the population. There is strong social and financial pressure against these professionals to go public, but a few have stood firm against this pressure, knowing that these truths must be brought to the attention of the public in an effort to save lives, no matter what the personal cost may be to themselves or their careers. One of these funeral directors has been featured in the alternative media this year, and he is Richard Hirschman from Alabama in the US. Him and his colleagues have confirmed that other funeral directors in their profession are seeing the same things they are seeing, but are too afraid to go public. Besides reporting on the huge increase in deaths they have been seeing since the rollout of the safe and effective medication, the embalmers have been reporting what they are finding inside the veins and arteries of these dead bodies. Huge blood clots that do not resemble traditional blood clots at all, but are long fibrous entities that can completely block a vein or artery.
Well, when I first started seeing these strange anomalies in the blood, it's just there's something different about the blood. All of these people that were dying, doesn't matter what they died of, they were having this unique, there's this unique change in the blood. I feel as though I am seeing something that could be causing their death. Back around November of last year, of 2021, people were asking me, well, how many people are having these strange clots? and I didn't have a very good answer for it. So starting in November, I started making notations of whether or not the person was clotted or not, or vaccinated. My green is people that have been verified are vaccinated. Yellow typically is somebody that has smaller clots, and the orange is somebody that had more significant clots, the clots that are really kind of concerning to me. I have it dated for the quarter, numbered by the quarter, so the entire quarter I had about 130. Yeah, only almost 14% had no significant clotting. A lot of the substances that I'm seeing are stuff that looks pretty much, it's this white fibrous stuff. Sometimes they're smaller, but they're all very similar to this this kind of white fibrous looking tissue. And that's what it looks like. It looks like tissue, not like blood at all.
And what does it feel like? Is it sticky? Is it elastic? Is it fibrous? Does it crumble in your fingers? Is it stretchy?
No, a typical blood clot in the past is like grape jelly. At worst, maybe a grape jam. But when you try to pick it up, it falls apart in your hand. It almost dissolves because the blood just crumbles apart, and it's very slippery and slick. These I can pick up with forceps. I can stretch them like a rubber band. They will break if you put enough tension on it, but they're way stronger than any clot that I'd ever seen before.
Tom, thank you for very much for coming on this video.
John, thanks for having me on the show to talk about this very important topic.
Now, Tom, as the name would imply, has been a major in the United States Air Force for a career. Also an engineer, mathematician, and data scientist and analyst. So in a good position to do this work. Now, what on earth are we looking at here, Tom? Please.
We're looking at white fibrous clots that have been supplied by embalmers. And they're seeing these all around the world. Embalmers are seeing these clots, and they're seeing them actually in a high percentage of their corpses, unfortunately, John. And they've been seeing mostly over the last 3 years. I actually have a small vial of the clots that I can show the audience live. I'll turn it slowly around so people can see the consistency of them.
Yeah, you can see that really clearly. And what are they, and where did you get them, Tom?
Got these from embalmer Richard Hirschman, who was featured in the Died Suddenly movie. Richard's been sending vials of these out to laboratories and scientists all over the world who are trying to examine the clots and figure out what they're made of. One of the theories is that they're made from amyloid protein. Amyloid is A-M-Y-L-O-I-D. It's just a fancy term for a misshaped or misfolded protein that builds up in our bodies. So.
And there's some fibrin from blood clotting processes in them as well, is there?
Correct. Dr. Ryan Cole has looked at them, the famous pathologist from Idaho, and he says it's a combination of the amyloid protein, fibrin. Our blood has fibrinogen in it that is in liquid form that then converts into fibrin when there's damage done to the lining of the veins or arteries. And that fibrin is white. And then there's also, he's found platelets in there too, and they're colorless. So that combination of fibrin, platelets, in this amyloid or amyloid-like material.
And what's the consistency like? Is it? Can you pull it apart? Is it rubbery? What does it feel like?
It's rubbery. It stretches. It's rubbery. It can break if you put enough force on it, but it's almost like a rubber band. It looks like a calamari and kind of feels like a rubber band to the embalmers. Very unusual.
Now, these have been, in the embalming process, these are flushed out of the circulatory system. And they're collected by embalmers. So these have been taken directly from the circulatory system of the recently deceased. This is where these come from.
Correct. Embalmers have two favorite injection site points when they do embalming. Their favorite is the carotid artery in the neck. So that's the main spot they've been finding these clots. They also will do an injection site point sometimes in the iliac artery down in the pelvis region that then runs down to your femoral arteries in the legs. So that doesn't necessarily mean where the clots are being formed, John, but that's where the embalmers seem to be finding the clots, obviously, as they're flushing out at these injection site points. However, some of the embalmers have told me recently they've had to actually create more injection site points because when they run into a body that has a lot of these clots, then they have to use alternate points in order to get them all out. And it's actually lengthened the process of embalming. Embalming used to take about an hour to hour and a half for an embalmer, and now it's taking about 2 to 2.5 hours for an embalming.
So in some of the recently deceased, this is actually clogging up their circulatory system, such as the embalmer can't flush the blood out.
Yeah, and the embalmers that I've talked to are pretty insistent that they believe the clots are forming before death. They think that they may be forming after death as well, but they're insistent that they are forming before death because they're seeing them in bodies that are only an hour or two old and still warm. They have not been refrigerated. And there's no way, they say, these clots could have formed in the hour or two since the person was deceased.
That means, Tom, that these clots are almost certainly the cause of death.
Yes, I think it's you get this in your system, it's quite obvious it can cause strokes and heart attacks, right? A piece, breaks off and forms an embolism, for example, you can get a stroke. And one of the interesting things, John, is the traditional clots, like the grape jelly clots and the chicken fat clots that embalmers have been seeing forever.
Yeah.
They almost exclusively appear on the venous side of the body, but these white fibrous clots are appearing as well on the arterial side, on both the venous and the arterial side, which it's very uncommon for embalmers to see clots on the arterial side.
Now, instead of calling them blood clots, I try to refer to them as white fibrous clots or white fibrous structures. How come all of a sudden these things are happening in so many people?
On March 1st, the FDA released the first round of thousands of pages of data submitted by Pfizer for review of their.
It's the 5.3.6 post-marketing analysis of the adverse events in which they outlined that 83% of all pregnant women who got ended up with a dead baby. They had 270 pregnancies. They could not account for what happened to 238 of those pregnancies. In the remaining pregnancies resulted in a dead baby. And they only had one normal outcome.
And originally the documents were going to take 55 years to be released, but because of a court order, we'll get all of the documents by year's end.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. President. Honorable National Assembly, in January this year, something happened that has not happened for decades. The birth rate fell by 20% compared to the same period last year. Choba Getot, researcher at the KRTK Institute of Economics, points out that this drastic decline came just 9 months after the COVID mass vaccinations began in Hungary.
I never pass up an opportunity when I see a newborn baby. I stop and I drink it in. Because my heart aches to think that seeing a newborn baby may become one of the rarest things. And I want to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But so many people have taken this. There's nothing as close to seeing the face of God as seeing a newborn. And you have just evil that is destroying that. And my heart hurts for God. Like, you could give people all of this. And they would use their time, energy, and talents to try and destroy it.
We can't post our story anywhere except for Twitter because
it gets taken down.
Facebook
Facebook takes it down. You get put in Facebook jail if you talk about it.
I've had accounts removed. I've been suspended.
That's one of the reasons they took part in the Shot Dead documentary that explores adverse reactions and deaths reportedly from the COVID vaccine.
You called me, mister, can I take the boys to eat and play basketball? I said, yes, ma'am, of course. She took them to the park. They got off the truck and took off running across the parking lot, and he collapsed.
I believe the autopsy is conclusive for the cause of death being COVID-19 vaccine-induced myocarditis.
The producers tell me Facebook blocked their documentary and YouTube took it down. You can watch it by typing shotdead.org. The Martins also tell me it took 8 months to get the autopsy. It lists complications with Trista's heart, her lungs, and her blood in specific medical terms. Part of her medical history shows recent coronavirus vaccination. It does not show myocarditis, as the parents say they heard doctors talking about in the hospital. Ultimately, it shows Trista's manner of death to be undetermined.
It's really weird to think that that's your child in there, but you come in and talk to her and say things, and she didn't like to be cold. We have her wrapped up in a blanket that she made. She made this blanket in home ec, have old t-shirts and stuff.
They find comfort in Trista's room and strength to be her voice, to warn others about their experience.
I don't think a lot of people are realizing what's happening until somebody they know, this happens to. Somebody they know.
What happened to humanity? Their empathy's gone. Rather trust Big Pharma than your neighbor or God. She said, how is it that when I talk about it, I get censored? How is it that Pfizer is irresponsible when I'm injured from a gene therapy that made and didn't tell people what it really is? Cause these are insane people. She said I felt I shouldn't take it cause I knew about all the side effects that some people had been through, but shit happens, I guess, what can I do? I'm just lucky that my doctor gave me an honest review. Cause some people get injured from the jab, but their doctor doesn't wanna go against the government. Their mobsters, they take away the practicing license of doctors who warn the patients about the dangers of the clot shot. These injuries are real to the people that have had them. You don't see it on the TV, so it's hard for you to fathom. And now they want kids to be part of the agenda, so they roll up their sleeve for something that never get them. Wondering what kind of world it is that I live in. The people are hypnotized by what they see on television, and they don't really question what they hear. And they don't really think for themselves that it's clear, so they buy the propaganda that they're fed by the media, funded by the people who profit from the hysteria.
I know there are plenty of people that have gotten it and they're perfectly fine. And I know there's a lot of people that have gotten it and they're really not okay, and in some of the worst cases, death.
The other day, I saw a story about two soccer players. They were like a brother and a sister, and they both had died from cardiac arrest a few days after they got the vaccine. And there's so many stories that are out there, and they just keep being pushed under the rug. And they're not shown, so I just want to show as much as I can to people about what's happening.